Dear Lydia Harris felt a strange sense of excitement as she stood at the edge of the excavation site, staring at the massive ruins beneath her feet. She had spent years studying ancient civilizations, but nothing prepared her for the discovery on Mars. The satellite images had shown something remarkable buried under the surface of the red planet, but nothing could compare to the sight of the abandoned city now emerging from the sand before her. There were no records of any intelligent life on Mars, let alone a fully developed society, yet the structure that lay before them was undeniable, a vast, sprawling city crafted with precision beyond anything humans had ever seen. The walls were lined with strange symbols glowing faintly in the dim light, as if they had been waiting for someone to uncover them for centuries. It wasn't just the size or the layout of the city that caught her attention, though it was the artifact that had been discovered at the heart of the ruins that set her mind racing. Unlike any object Lydia had encountered in her studies, it pulsed with an energy that defied all understanding. It was not just a machine or a weapon, but something far more complex. The moment her fingers brushed against its surface, she felt a jolt of energy shoot through her entire body. It was as if the artifact itself was alive, waiting for her to unlock its secrets. At first she thought it was a fluke or some side effect of the power surging through her, but as she continued to interact with the artifact, the truth became clear. This wasn't just an artifact, it was a living entity, a consciousness that had been preserved within the object for millennia, waiting for someone to awaken it. Dr. Harris felt her breath catch in her throat as the artifact began to respond to her thoughts. The symbols on its surface shifted and rearranged themselves, forming patterns she could almost understand, but not quite. There was no way this was just an ancient relic. It was as if the civilization that had created this artifact had known humanity would one day find it, and it had been left behind as a message, a gift. Her team gathered around her as she stood motionless, staring at the artifact. They too were captivated by its glow, but none of them understood what was happening or why Lydia had been chosen to connect with it. It wasn't just the artifact that was speaking to her, though it was the city itself. The very air seemed charged with energy, and ancient whispers filled her mind. This wasn't just a discovery of history. This was the beginning of something far greater, something that would change the course of humanity forever. Dara Harris didn't know it yet, but she was about to awaken a consciousness that had been dormant for centuries, and the civilization that had once ruled the stars would soon become humanity's greatest ally. The questions in her mind raced faster than she could answer them, but one thing was certain: the artifact had found its match, and in that moment Lydia felt the weight of destiny press down upon her shoulders. The days following the discovery felt like a blur for dear Lydia Harris, as she delved deeper into the mystery of the artifact she had unlocked. She barely slept or ate, her thoughts consumed by the glowing symbols and the strange hum that resonated from the device. It was as if the artifact was calling to her, whispering to her mind with its ancient voice. As Lydia continued to make contact with the artifact, she began to feel something more than just the presence of an unknown intelligence. It was a deep connection, a merging of sorts that went beyond simple communication. It wasn't long before she realized that the artifact was not just a relic of an ancient civilization. It was a consciousness, an echo of the long-lost people who had once ruled the galaxy. The voice began to speak to her clearer now, guiding her through the symbols and the thoughts that had been locked away for so long. It called itself the Aryan consciousness, and it told her of a time long before Earth had even begun to develop life. The Aryans were a race of beings unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. They had mastered the secrets of the universe, bending space and time to their will. They had created technology that allowed them to travel the stars and build cities that spanned entire worlds. But as the Aryan consciousness spoke, Lydia could feel the weight of sadness in its words. The Aryans were not a proud people, nor were they conquerors. They had sought peace above all else, but in the end their peaceful civilization had been their undoing. The Aryan consciousness told her that they had been destroyed by an unstoppable enemy, an ancient race known only as the Voidborn, who fed on the destruction of civilizations like the Aryans when they reached their peak. The Voidborn were not just a physical enemy, but a force that consumed the very essence of a civilization. Once it had achieved too much, they left nothing behind but ruin and emptiness. Lydia could feel the sorrow of the Aryan consciousness as it relived the final moments of its people. Their cities burned, their technology turned against them by the very forces they had once sought to understand. But despite the devastation, the Aryan consciousness did not speak of hatred or revenge. Instead, it spoke of hope and a warning. It had hidden its knowledge away in the artifact it had left behind, so that when the Voidborn returned, they would not find Earth unprepared. Lydia's heart raced as she understood the gravity of the situation. The Aryans had left humanity with a gift, but it was not a gift that could be taken lightly. The knowledge of the Aryans could either save humanity or destroy it. The artifact was not just a tool or a weapon, it was a blueprint for survival, a key to unlocking the power of the stars, but it came with a price. The Aryan consciousness warned her that the Voidborn were already aware of humanity's existence. They were coming for Earth, and the only way to survive would be for humanity to use the Aryan knowledge wisely. Lydia knew then that her role in this discovery was more than just that of a scientist. It was something far greater. She was the link between humanity and the forgotten past. A future was now in her hands. As the days passed, Lydia Harris found herself unable to tear away from the artifact. Its glow had become a constant presence in her life, and its voice filled her mind with knowledge that both astonished and terrified her. The Aryan consciousness had begun teaching her things that humans had never dreamed of possible. It spoke of energy manipulation and the ability to bend the very fabric of space and time with technologies so advanced it seemed like magic. Lydia's heart raced as she tried to keep up with the flood of information pouring into her mind. She had always been a brilliant scientist, but nothing in her training had prepared her for the revelations she was now encountering. She shared her findings with the rest of the team who had been studying the ruins alongside her, but as they uncovered more about the Aryan technology, it became clear that this knowledge was far more than they had ever anticipated. In secret laboratories around the world, teams of scientists and engineers worked day and night to reverse engineer the Aryan technology. They discovered ways to manipulate energy in ways that made nuclear power seem primitive. They developed machines that could heal wounds within seconds and technology that could terraform entire planets. It was clear that the Aryans had achieved what humanity had only dreamed of. But the more Lydia and her team learned, the more they realized that this gift came with a heavy burden. The Aryan consciousness had told Lydia that their civilization had once been united by a shared goal of peace and harmony. But as their technology advanced, so did their complacency. They began to take their power for granted, and soon corruption seeped into their ranks. The Aryans believed they had mastered the universe, but in truth they had failed to see the danger that lurked in the shadows of force so ancient and destructive that it could not be stopped. The Voidborn. The Aryan consciousness made it clear that humanity was on the brink of a similar fate. Unless they learned from the mistakes of the past, they too could fall prey to the same darkness that had destroyed the Aryans. The gift of the Aryan technology was not just a blessing, it was a warning. Lydia knew that humanity could not simply take this power and use it recklessly. The knowledge was far too dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could lead to a new kind of war, one that would make the atrocities of history pale in comparison. But there was hope. The Aryan consciousness had seen something in humanity that the Aryans had lost. It had seen the potential for growth and adaptability. It had seen that humanity had the ability to change, to learn from its mistakes, and to rise above its flaws. It was not too late for humanity to chart a new path, one that could avoid the same fate that had befallen the Aryans. But to do so, Lydia knew they would need more than just the Aryan technology. They would need to change the way they thought and acted. They would need to put aside their differences and unite as one. As the leaders of Earth gathered to discuss their next steps, Lydia stood at the forefront of the meeting, feeling the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She had become the link between humanity and the Aryan legacy, and she knew that the choices made in the coming days would determine the future of her species. The Aryan consciousness had entrusted humanity with its greatest gift, but it was a gift that came with a cost. It was up to Lydia and the people of Earth to decide whether they would be worthy of it. As the world began to embrace the incredible advancements brought by Aryan technology, there was an unsettling undercurrent that no one could ignore. Tensions were rising across the globe as nations scrambled to control the newfound power. Lydia Harris watched with growing concern as leaders and organizations all over the world fought to harness the Aryan knowledge for their own purposes. The unity that had been necessary for humanity's survival seemed to be slipping away as greed and ambition took hold. The more people learned, the more it seemed that the technology could do everything from ending poverty to creating weapons capable of unimaginable destruction. And in this new world where power was everything, people were quick to seize it. But Lydia knew better. She had learned too much from the Aryan consciousness to be blind to the dangers of unchecked power. She knew that humanity was facing a new threat, not just from the Voidborn, but from within its own ranks. As she delved deeper into the Aryan teachings, she began to uncover something disturbing buried in the records of the lost civilization. The Aryan consciousness had not only warned of the Voidborn, it had also spoken of a darker enemy, one that had been planted within their own society, a group of manipulators who had secretly sown the seeds of division and conflict among the Aryans long before their fall. They had been a shadow force within the Aryan Empire, working in the background to corrupt the minds of the people and turn them against one another. Their goal was not conquest, but chaos. They fed off the discord and distrust that spread throughout the Aryan civilization like a virus. Lydia's stomach churned as she realized the terrible truth. The Voidborn were not the only threat. The Aryan consciousness had foreseen humanity's own internal strife could be just as deadly if the right forces were allowed to take hold. It didn't take long for Lydia to start noticing strange occurrences all around the world. At first, it was subtle, small glitches in communications, strange power surges, and unexpected system failures. But soon it became clear that these were no accidents. Someone or something was orchestrating these events. Lydia dug deeper into the information from the Aryan archives and discovered that these disturbances were similar to the ones the Aryans had experienced before their fall, a systematic breakdown of trust and communication designed to destabilize their society. The Voidborn had not just been an outside threat, they had been a force that had used the weaknesses of the Aryan civilization against them. And now it seemed that humanity was facing a similar threat. The conspiracy had begun to unravel. People in positions of power were being manipulated by a hidden hand, pushing them toward conflict and distrust. And the worst part was that they didn't even realize it. Lydia realized that the real war was already underway, but it wasn't one that could be fought with technology or weapons. It was a war of the mind, a battle for control over the hearts and minds of humanity. In the shadows of government buildings and corporate boardrooms, powerful figures were working to manipulate the masses using fear and division as their weapons. The Aryan consciousness had been right. Humanity's greatest strength could also be its greatest weakness. The ability to adapt was a double-edged sword. If people did not learn to unite, their differences would tear them apart. Lydia knew that time was running out. The Voidborn were coming, but humanity's greatest enemy might already be here. The Voidborn arrived faster than anyone had anticipated. Their massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit, as though they had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Lydia Harris stood at the command center, her eyes glued to the holographic display, showing the alien fleet moving into position. Their ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, smooth and featureless. They seemed almost alive, as though the metal itself was part of a greater organism. The skies above Earth darkened as the Voidborn ships unleashed their assault weapons, tearing through the atmosphere and shattering satellites with ease. In an instant, humanity was thrown into chaos. The world's governments scrambled to launch defensive measures, but it quickly became clear that the Voidborn were far more advanced than anything humanity could muster. Lydia felt a chill run down her spine as she watched Earth's defense systems fall one by one, their advanced weaponry unable to penetrate the Voidborn ships. It wasn't just the technology that set the Voidborn apart, it was the way they fought. Their strikes were swift, precise, and devastating. They didn't destroy indiscriminately. Instead, they seemed to target the heart of humanity's most vulnerable points. Lydia knew that they were being methodical, each strike calculated to sow fear and weaken the resolve of the people on the ground. As panic spread across the globe, cities were abandoned and military forces retreated into underground bunkers. Humanity was on the verge of collapse. But Lydia knew that the Aryan consciousness held the key to humanity's survival. They had given them the tools to fight back, if only they could unlock the true potential of their knowledge. She reached out to the Aryan consciousness once again, and for the first time since the artifact had been activated, she felt something different. A surge of power flowed through her mind, like an electric current. It was the very energy that the Aryans had used to protect their civilization. She could feel the power within her fingertips as she began to understand the true nature of the Aryan technology. But there was no time to waste. The Voidborn were coming for Earth's heart. They had targeted the major population centers and military strongholds, and within hours the first wave of cities had fallen. Lydia knew that humanity could not afford to wait any longer. It was time to act. The Aryan consciousness showed her how to harness the power of their technology, how to build weapons and ships capable of standing against the Voidborn on equal footing. With urgency, she shared her findings with the leaders of Earth. The time for petty disagreements and power struggles had passed. Humanity had to unite or perish. In a last-ditch effort, Earth's remaining fleets were mobilized. The newly constructed ships equipped with Aryan technology were deployed to intercept the Voidborn forces before they could land on Earth. It was humanity's first real counterattack against the Voidborn, and it would be their greatest test yet. The skies above Earth erupted in a storm of energy as the two fleets clashed in a battle that would determine the fate of the planet. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light as humanity's forces fought tooth and nail to push the Voidborn back, but the battle was far from over, and Lydia knew that the hardest part was yet to come. She felt the weight of the Aryan knowledge settle within her, the pressure of leading humanity's last stand against a seemingly unstoppable enemy. The Voidborn were only the beginning, and Lydia knew that if humanity was to survive, they would have to learn not just to fight but to evolve. The battle in Earth's orbit raged on for hours as the Voidborn advanced relentlessly, but humanity's forces were holding their ground. The newly crafted ships, powered by Aryan technology, were stronger than anything the world had ever seen, and for the first time humanity had a fighting chance. But as the battle wore on, Lydia began to realize something troubling. The Voidborn were not merely attacking Earth. They were studying it, watching its every move as if waiting for something to happen. Lydia's connection to the Aryan consciousness deepened in those moments, and she could sense the confusion in its ancient voice. It spoke of a prophecy long forgotten, of a time when the Voidborn would arrive once again, but it also spoke of an ally, one who would come from an unexpected place. This revelation struck Lydia like a lightning bolt, an ally who could help turn the tide of battle. But who could it be? Where could humanity find such an ally in the face of an enemy so powerful and relentless? As the hours passed and the fight intensified, Earth's leaders began to realize they were facing more than just a war of survival. They were facing a war for the very future of their species. Lydia knew that humanity could not fight this war alone. They had to reach out to others. They had to find the lost pieces of the Aryan legacy scattered across the stars. She called for a global summit, a final attempt to unite the fractured world into a single force against the Voidborn. The summit was tense as representatives from all over the globe gathered in one place. The air was thick with suspicion and distrust, but Lydia stood firm at the center of it all. She had seen the future of humanity, and she knew there could be no more divisions. With the knowledge of the Aryan consciousness in her mind, she urged the leaders to put aside their differences and forge an alliance not just among nations, but with any civilizations they could find that could help humanity survive. At first there was resistance, but as the summit continued and the Voidborn threat became more real with each passing moment, the leaders began to see the wisdom in Lydia's words. They had to work together or face annihilation. In a historic decision, the leaders of Earth agreed to send out communications across the galaxy in the hopes of finding any allies who might have fought the Voidborn before, or who could lend their knowledge and resources to humanity's cause. Days later, an unexpected response came. A distant planet responded to Earth's call, not a human civilization, but one that shared an ancient connection to the Aryans, a race known as the Illyriths. The Illyriths had been allies of the Aryans long before their fall, and they had kept their knowledge of the Voidborn hidden in the shadows, waiting for the day when humanity would need them most. The Illyriths had faced the Voidborn in the past, and they had knowledge that could be crucial to defeating them. The Illyriths had not made themselves known to humanity until now, but Lydia understood immediately why they had stayed hidden. They had learned from the mistakes of the Aryans. They had chosen to remain in the shadows to avoid the same fate. Now, with the Voidborn threatening Earth, they had no choice but to reveal themselves and offer their help. Lydia felt a wave of relief wash over her for the first time in days. She knew that humanity would not have to face the Voidborn alone. There were allies in the galaxy willing to fight alongside them. And yet, even with this newfound hope, Lydia couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was only beginning, and that the Illyriths were not the only force waiting in the wings. As the Illyriths made their way to Earth, their ships gliding silently through space, it became clear that humanity was no longer alone in this fight against the Voidborn. But Lydia couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the arrival of the Illyriths was only the beginning of something much more complicated. The Illyriths were indeed allies from a distant past, and they brought with them invaluable knowledge. But Lydia knew that even with their help, defeating the Voidborn was far from certain. The enemy they faced was unlike any other. The Voidborn were not just invaders, they were a force of nature feeding on the destruction of civilizations across the galaxy, and as their ships continued their relentless assault on Earth, it became clear that they had only just begun. The Illyriths explained that the Voidborn were not interested in conquest or domination. They were far more terrifying. Their goal was to consume everything in their path until nothing was left but emptiness and silence. The Voidborn were like parasites. They sought to devour entire civilizations and leave nothing behind, not even memories. Their very presence was a sickness that spread through the stars. Lydia listened intently to the Illyriths' warnings as they spoke of their past encounters with the Voidborn and how they had been forced to retreat from their own worlds in order to survive. But even as the Illyriths shared their knowledge, Lydia couldn't help but feel a growing unease. Something didn't sit right with her. There was more to the Voidborn than even the Illyriths realized, and she was beginning to fear that the true enemy might not be the Voidborn at all. As the war raged on humanity, and the Illyriths worked together to form a united front against the Voidborn, their forces began to push back the invaders with newly developed weapons and strategies born from the fusion of Aryan and Illyrith technology. Yet despite their advances, the Voidborn remained relentless. Their attacks grew more brutal, more calculated, and as they pushed humanity's forces closer to Earth's surface, Lydia realized that something had shifted. The Voidborn were no longer just attacking Earth, they were targeting the planet's very core, and it seemed that their goal had changed. They were not just interested in destroying Earth, they were trying to break it apart from the inside out. Lydia's mind raced as she pieced together the new pattern of the Voidborn's attacks. They were not just after humanity, they were after something much more valuable, the very heart of the planet itself. The Aryan consciousness spoke to her again, its voice filled with urgency, warning her that the Voidborn were after something that had been buried deep within the planet for centuries, a secret locked away by the Aryans themselves. The Illyriths, too, seemed to be aware of the growing threat. They revealed that the Voidborn had been searching for this power for millennia, and now they were closing in on it. Earth was not just another planet to them. It was a treasure trove of untapped potential. Lydia was struck with a horrible realization. The Voidborn were not after Earth to destroy it. They were after its power, something buried deep within the planet's core, something that had the potential to reshape the balance of the entire galaxy. In that moment, Lydia understood the true scale of the war. They were facing. The Voidborn were not just a threat to humanity. They were a threat to the entire galaxy, and the secrets of Earth were the key to everything. The true battle had begun. The realization hit Lydia like a freight train. The Voidborn were not just after Earth, they were after something far greater, something that could change the fate of the entire galaxy, and it was buried deep beneath the surface of the planet. Lydia could feel the weight of this new truth pressing down on her shoulders. She had always believed that the Aryan knowledge would be the key to humanity's survival, but now she knew it was far more than that. The very heart of Earth was tied to the survival of the galaxy itself. As the Voidborn continued their assault, Earth's defenses were being stretched thin. The combined forces of humanity and the Illyriths were fighting desperately to keep the invaders at bay, but it was clear that the Voidborn's power was overwhelming. Lydia called upon the Aryan consciousness once more, desperate for answers. She needed to know what the Voidborn were after, what power they sought, and how to stop them. The Aryan consciousness revealed the truth. The power had been hidden on Earth long before humanity ever walked the planet, an ancient force left behind by the Aryans themselves. It was the very core of the planet, and it held the key to controlling the fabric of space and time. It was a power so vast that it could reshape entire civilizations or destroy them in an instant. The Aryans had sealed it away in the depths of the planet to protect it from the Voidborn, and now the invaders had come to claim it. Lydia knew that the Voidborn would stop at nothing to unlock this power, and if they succeeded, Earth and everything it stood for would be lost. The time had come for humanity to make a choice. They could continue to fight the Voidborn on the surface and hope for a miracle, or they could take the fight to the heart of the planet itself and destroy the power before the Voidborn could harness it. But there was a catch. In order to destroy the power, they would need to venture into the depths of the Earth's core and destroy the ancient source from within, a task so dangerous that no one knew if anyone would survive it. Lydia stood at the center of Earth's command station, the final decision resting on her shoulders. She knew what she had to do, but the weight of the choice felt almost too much to bear. In the end, she realized that there was no other option. The galaxy's survival depended on them stopping the Voidborn, and the only way to do that was to destroy the power buried deep within Earth. Lydia assembled a team of the bravest soldiers and scientists humanity had to offer. They would descend into the heart of the planet and destroy the power before it was too late. The journey was perilous. The deeper they went, the more they encountered strange and deadly forces that seemed to protect the ancient power hidden below, but Lydia and her team pressed on, determined to see the mission through. When they finally reached the heart of the planet, they found it the source of the power, glowing with a light that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of reality itself. Lydia knew what had to be done. She activated the Aryan technology one final time, and with a single command the energy coursed through the planet's core, and the power began to collapse in on itself. As the energy spiraled out of control, Lydia and her team barely managed to escape the depths of the planet in time, but not before the ancient power was destroyed and the Voidborn's goal was thwarted. The battle for Earth had been won, but at great cost. Lydia stood in the ruins of what had once been a world on the brink of destruction, and as she looked to the sky, she knew that humanity had survived, not because of their strength or technology, but because they had come together to fight for something greater than themselves. The war was over, but the future of the galaxy had only just begun.